Hello everyone, I am Kristiyan Uzunchev, and in today's video I'm going to be covering what is search engine optimization and why it's super important for your business in today's digital world. For example, did you know that 93% of all online experiences start with a search engine? Just think about how many times you go to Google every day and search for something, or how many times you go to YouTube or Kayak or Booking to search for a flight or for a hotel. Those are all search engines and they are a huge part of our life. So let's start with the presentation, and before we actually dive into SEO, I want to address some controversy. There's so many people out there spreading false information about SEO. So many people are saying like, my industry is too hard to get ranked in Google, or only big companies can do well on Google. Then I always hear people saying, the more pages I have on my website, the better. Then people always say, I need to submit my website to Google, or I need to spend money to win online. And now let's talk about all of those 5 myths. So the first one, it doesn't really matter what industry you're in. You can always rank on Google. It's just that some industries are way more competitive than others, and it will simply take you more time to rank on the top. If it was only for big companies to rank on Google, then you wouldn't be seeing all of those small and medium companies ranking on the top and getting tons of traffic and changing their lives. Google is for everyone. So the next big claim that we see is about the more pages you have, the better. And again, that's totally false. Google looks for quality and not quantity. So, for example, look at about.com. They cut more than half of their content and turned it to many mini sites. And they started getting more traffic than they were ever getting before. And in regards to the topic of should you submit your website to Google or not, well, Google will automatically detect your website and put it in their index. You don't really need to manually submit it. But of course, if you make a Google Search Console account and submit a sitemap, it's a great thing to do and it will help you even more. And in regards to the last myth, you have to spend a lot of money, a ton of money to win online. Well, not really, that's not the case. And this is why I started doing SEO back when I was 15, because I had no capital and SEO was the only free source of massive traffic that I could really use. Now, by the end of this presentation, I want to make sure that you understand the ranking factor that Google uses and what is really important for them to rank websites higher. I want you to learn how to use SEO and drive traffic and get more sales through your website. In order to win online, there are 3 main keys that you need to understand. The first one is why SEO is so important. So look, SEO is simply the process of optimizing your website for any given search word or term so it can show up higher in the search engine. You can think of it as your 24-hour salesman, because no matter what time of the day or what country you're in, when people search for those terms, you will be found and will be getting traffic. Best of all, some of those people will convert into customers. And this is why I really love SEO so much. Unlike with paid ads, where you have to constantly spend money to get results, with SEO, once you lay out the foundations, you don't need to do anything for weeks or months, and you'll be still getting a constant flow of traffic and customers. So the reason I love SEO so much is because it's super simple. It increases your traffic, it generates positive return on investment, and gives you amazing brand awareness. Over the years, we helped so many people get found on Google from the first page that it built so much trust, because people are like, okay, if this website is ranking on the top of Google, then it must be legit, it must be true. Now, that doesn't mean you should put deceiving information, but it's for you to understand that it builds trust. And also your competition is doing it, so you should do it too if you don't want to get left behind. Now, the next thing to winning online is choosing your battleground. As Jimmy Wales, the founder of Wikipedia, says, if it's not on Google, it doesn't exist. Google dominates search on all landscapes. So when you look at desktop, they're estimated 4.5 billion active internet users. And Google search share for desktop is 87%. That's roughly 8.7 out of 10. That's an amazing result if you think about it. They're simply dominating. And on mobile, it's even crazier. They're 9.5 out of 10. They dominate even a greater share because so many people are using Android devices. And if you're not on Google, you're not doing well. And just being on there isn't enough. Your position is really everything because over 31.7% of people click on the website that ranks number 1 according to the advanced web ranking. If you're not in the top 10, you're not really going to be seen at all. And being in the top is literally everything. So at this point, what I want you to do is go to youngcaesar.com/resources and download the PDF on search engines. It will help you understand how Google works, their layout, from the SERP features to advertising to paid results to knowledge graph. It literally breaks down all aspects of a search engine listing page. And if you already know that, you don't need to download it. But if you don't, it's a great place to start before we jump into the third key, which is unlocking the SEO factors online. So one question that might be coming in your head after all of this information is, hey Chris, does Google provide any education on SEO and ranking online? Well, they do give information on the topic. Not a lot, but even that's appreciated as they're actually not obligated to. Google do have a very long guideline where they tell you what to optimize your page, how to optimize your pages for the users and not the search engine. And also they tell you to make sure that your website stands out from the rest. And it's all good information, but not enough if you want quick, stable, and consistent results. They tell you what not to do in a very generic way that doesn't really give you any actionable steps. One thing that you could do to make your website Google friendly is simply going to any SEO tool out there. There are so many of them. Most of them are paid and have free trials. For this case, I picked the Ubersuggest from Neil Patel, who is a great guy, because his tool is actually free and you could use it for free. You just go to the Ubersuggest tool, you click on the site audit report, and in the left navigation, you see a list with technical SEO factors and if your website passes them or not. So you just need to put in your website and this tool will show you all of the issues that your website is currently facing. Ideally, you would want to go through all issues and fix them because Google wants to rank websites that are fully optimized and not just 1 or 2 pages from the whole website that are optimized. The other thing that is cool about Google is that they have a Twitter account called the Search Liaison, and they also tweet posts about what's happening with Google. So if I were you, I would make sure that I follow them on Twitter. And those are the 2 accounts that you can get a lot of information on what's happening with their algorithms. You can also look at Think with Google. It's a website they ended up releasing and it gives a lot of information and a lot of data points out there. Now, most people think that there is a holy grail to SEO, a secret trick that you just do it and your website goes on the top of Google, but that's really not the case. The harsh truth is that no holy grail to SEO, but a series of small and big steps that you have to perform in order to cover all of them. What I mean is that Google, they have more than 200 ranking factors. So if you want to rank, you really need to optimize your website for all of them. You cannot just optimize your website around 10 ranking factors and expect amazing results. One of these steps, one of those ranking factors, is taking care of your website speed, because according to HubSpot, every second delay in your load speed reduces the overall website conversion with 7%. So you want to make sure that your website loads fast. And on the same site audit report in Ubersuggest, you can get suggestions on what to improve with your site speed, or you can just go to Google and type the Google Speed Test 2. Just type in Google Speed Test 2. You will see this page coming up. Then you just need to put in your website and they'll give you a very in-depth report on what's wrong with your page speed and what you can improve. Now, the next thing that I want you to look at is mobile user experience, because the majority of users nowadays are using Google through their phones, and overall they're using the internet mostly through their phones. that number of people is so big that Google has a mobile first index experience. So make sure that your website is mobile friendly and it's optimized for users using their phone. The next step that you need to perform is to look at your topical content. Google knows that if you have a page on healthy living, for example, you might be covering topics like what's the best way to eat, or how to live less stressfully, or what's the purpose of life. So the more detail that you go into on each page around the same topic, the better you're going to end up ranking, versus if you go really broad and cover a lot of random topics, but you don't go in depth on all of them. That's what actually we're used to seeing. Many people post a lot of content on their blogs just for the sake of having content, but it's not optimized for the user or Google. You need to become the go-to expert in your field, and online this could be achieved by covering many different topics and creating really valuable and engaging content. Another factor, and this is from Ahrefs, it's all about the URL length. The longer your URL length, the lower your rankings are. So you want to keep your URL short and to the point. Just look, guys, I'm showing you some of the main ranking factors, and we covered only 4 by now. There are more than 200 in total, and you can download all of them on our website. Just go to youngcaesar.com, go to case studies, and there is downloadable checklist there which you can download and optimize your website around all of those 200 plus ranking factors. Another thing to look at is content length. Generally speaking, the longer your content, the more social shares you're going to end up getting, and the better you're going to end up doing in Google. But that doesn't mean that you should just go out there and release a ton of articles that contain fluff. If you have fluff in your articles, you're not going to do well. Unlike you would be able to do so in 2012. But now everything is way more modern and advanced. So another huge factor, this is probably Google's biggest ranking factor since forever, backlinks. Backlinks are another big ranking factor. And as you can see from this chart by Ahrefs again, backlinks have more of an impact on your rankings than on-page SEO. That's getting sites to link to you. It's super important. And to be honest, backlinks has always been my favorite thing because they are the hardest thing to gain and they bring the biggest value. And one thing that very few SEOs look at is the power of branding and user signals. And this is crucial and it's getting more and more important. The ex-CEO of Google once said that brands are the solution and not the problem. Brands are how you sort out the cesspool. Now, Matt Cutts who also worked at Google in the past, he was a former head of web spam, and he started a quote saying, "We actually came up with a classifier to say, okay, IRS or Wikipedia or New York Times is over on this side, and low quality sites are over on the other side." So there's a thing called E80 that Google released, and you should really look into it. It stands for expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthy. In these days, security is a big issue as well. So you want to make sure you're using a SSL certificate. You have probably heard about it. If not, just Google it. That way you will get HTTPS before your domain. Because when people go to your website, you're not using SSL, you're more likely to get a warning. This is another very important thing nowadays. Now, to summarize the whole video, Google has more than 200 ranking factors and they're all different. In this video, I laid out most of them, but like I said, if you want, I laid out the most important ones, but if you want to get the full list, just go to youngcaesar.com/case study, watch the video, download the checklist and start implementing them. We're always here to help. Just drop us a message if you need any help. We'll be happy to help. Thanks so much for your time. Have a blessed day.